You've seen it 100 times. Your dog walks outside, sniffs the ground, and starts eating grass like it's the most natural thing in the world. And you've always assumed they're just sick or bored or just being weird. They're not. The truth is far more interesting than you think. For decades, the most common answer to the question, "Why does my dog eat grass?" has been simple. They do it because they feel sick and they want to vomit. Sounds logical. You see your dog eat grass and minutes later they throw up. Cause and effect, right? Well, not exactly. Here's what's actually fascinating. Studies consistently show that fewer than 25% of dogs who eat grass regularly ever vomit afterward. And of the dogs who do vomit, only about 10% showed any signs of illness before eating the grass in the first place. That completely flips the assumption on its head. Your dog is not eating grass because they feel sick. In the vast majority of cases, something entirely different is going on. So where did this idea even come from? Honestly, it came from us, from human pattern recognition. We see our dog eat something unusual, and then we see them get sick, and our brain connects those two events. But that connection is mostly coincidental. Dogs actually vomit quite easily compared to humans. Their digestive systems are built for it. So when they do throw up after eating grass, it doesn't necessarily mean the grass caused it, or that they intended it to happen. There's another version of this myth worth addressing. The idea that dogs eat grass because they're nutritionally deficient, that they're craving fiber or missing some vitamin that the grass provides. And while this one has a small seed of truth in it, as we'll explore shortly, it doesn't explain the full picture either. Dogs who eat perfectly balanced, nutritionally complete diets still eat grass regularly. Dogs who live in lush, food-abundant homes still eat grass. So "I'm missing something in my diet" doesn't hold up as the sole explanation. The real story starts much further back. Not in your backyard, but in the wild. To understand why your dog does this today, you have to understand where dogs came from and what their ancestors were actually doing thousands of years ago. Because your dog isn't broken. Your dog isn't sick. Your dog is ancient. And they are doing exactly what their DNA has been quietly telling them to do for a very, very long time. Long before dogs curled up on sofas and waited by the front door, their ancestors were wild predators. Wolves and early canids hunted prey animals, rabbits, deer, rodents, and when they consumed those animals, they weren't just eating muscle meat. They were eating the entire animal, the stomach, the intestines. And inside those intestines, partially digested plant matter, grasses, roots, leaves, wild herbs. This means that for tens of thousands of years, plant consumption has been a completely normal part of canine nutrition. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't desperation. It was just dinner. The wild ancestors of your dog got a wide range of nutrients, including fiber, chlorophyll, and trace minerals, through the stomach contents of their prey. Their digestive systems evolved alongside this behavior. It became wired in. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Over the centuries of domestication, we gave dogs processed food, kibble, canned meals, formulated diets designed to hit specific macros. And while most of these diets are nutritionally complete in the technical sense, they are often extremely low in fiber and fresh plant material. Your dog's ancient digestive system is still expecting some of that plant roughage. When they don't get it regularly, something inside them nudges them toward the nearest source available. And in your backyard, the most available source of green, fibrous plant material is the grass. There's also a gut health dimension to this that most owners completely overlook. Dogs, like humans, have a complex microbiome, a community of bacteria and microorganisms living in their digestive tract. Certain grasses and wild plants contain compounds that act as natural prebiotics, feeding those good bacteria and helping regulate digestion. Your dog doesn't know the word microbiome, but their gut does. And when the balance feels slightly off, when digestion feels sluggish or uncomfortable, that ancient instinct kicks in. Go find something green. This also explains why dogs tend to eat more grass in the spring, when fresh new growth emerges. That young, tender grass is higher in certain nutrients, easier to digest, and contains more active plant compounds. Your dog isn't randomly grazing. There's a biological pull toward freshness and vitality, one that's encoded in their ancestry and still perfectly intact today. And there's one more layer to this. Certain parasites, particularly intestinal worms, have historically been managed by wild canids through plant consumption. Some grasses and wild plants have mild antiparasitic properties. Whether your dog is consciously doing this or not is impossible to say. But their instincts don't require consciousness. They require only the quiet, persistent signal that says, "Eat the green thing." It has worked for millennia. Still works now. Here's something that might surprise you. Eating grass isn't always about the body. Sometimes it's about the mind. Dogs experience anxiety, stress, and boredom in ways that are deeper and more complex than most owners realize. And just like humans develop habits, biting nails, checking their phone, pacing the room, dogs develop repetitive physical behaviors when they're emotionally understimulated or overwhelmed. For some dogs, eating grass is one of those behaviors. It provides sensory input. The texture of the grass, the smell of the earth, the act of chewing. These all activate parts of the canine nervous system in a way that feels grounding and calming. Think about what your dog's day actually looks like. For many pet dogs, the routine is wake up, eat, maybe a 20-minute walk, then hours of lying around while you're at work or busy with your life. Dogs are deeply social animals built for continuous engagement with their pack, with their environment, with tasks and movement and smell. When that engagement disappears, the nervous system starts looking for an outlet. The garden becomes a source of stimulation. The grass becomes something to do. This is especially visible in high-energy breeds, border collies, German shepherds, huskies, Australian shepherds, dogs that were bred for a working life of 8 to 10 hours a day. Put one of those dogs in a suburban backyard with nothing to do, and watch what happens. They dig. They chew. They eat grass. They pace. These aren't signs of a bad dog. They are signs of a brilliant dog with nowhere to put its energy. But it isn't only high-energy dogs. Even calm, low-energy breeds will develop grass eating as a habit if they are chronically understimulated. Stress, separation anxiety, and lack of mental challenge all push dogs toward repetitive ground-level behaviors: sniffing, licking, chewing, grazing. It's self-soothing. It's the canine equivalent of stress eating, and it deserves to be taken seriously rather than dismissed. So what does this mean practically? It means that if your dog eats grass obsessively, not occasionally but every single time they go outside, often for extended periods, that's a signal worth paying attention to. Not because they're sick, but because they might be telling you something about their emotional state. More walks, more engagement, puzzle feeders, training sessions, play. These aren't luxuries for a dog. They are necessities. And when they're missing, your dog will find their own way to cope. Usually somewhere in the yard, nose to the ground, chewing quietly on something green. The key is learning to read the difference between calm, occasional grass eating, which is almost always just instinct and biology, and anxious, compulsive grass eating, which is a quiet cry for more connection, more stimulation, and more of your time. So now you know that grass eating is mostly normal, mostly instinctive, and often emotionally meaningful. But there are moments when you should pay closer attention, because sometimes, what looks like casual grass eating is your dog's quiet way of signaling that something is genuinely wrong. The first thing to watch for is frequency and urgency. If your dog eats grass calmly and occasionally, just nibbling a few blades during a walk or while exploring the yard, that's almost certainly fine. But if they suddenly start eating grass frantically, urgently, like they can't stop, that change in pattern matters. Sudden, urgent grass eating can sometimes indicate gastrointestinal discomfort, bloating, acid reflux, an upset stomach, or in rarer cases, something more serious. If this happens alongside vomiting, lethargy, loss of appetite, or a distended belly, those symptoms together warrant a vet visit. The second thing to consider is what grass they're eating. This one is critically important and often overlooked. Your dog doesn't know which lawns have been treated with pesticides, herbicides, or synthetic fertilizers. They don't know which decorative plants in the garden are toxic to dogs. They just follow their nose and their instinct. As an owner, your job is to make sure the areas where your dog grazes are safe. Avoid letting your dog eat grass in public parks or lawns that show signs of chemical treatment, that blue-green dusty coating on grass, that unnaturally uniform bright green, or those small warning flags you sometimes see after lawn treatment. If you have your own yard, consider what products you use and whether they are dog-safe. The third signal is what comes up. Occasional vomiting after eating grass, while not desirable, is usually not alarming. But if your dog is regularly vomiting after eating grass, or if what comes up looks unusual, blood, excessive mucus, or foreign material, that's worth investigating with a veterinarian sooner rather than later. Now, what can you actually do to support your dog if you've noticed a lot of grass eating? First, consider their diet. Adding more fiber to their meals through safe vegetables like cooked pumpkin, carrots, or green beans can reduce the biological pull toward grass. Many dogs eat grass less once their gut has the fiber it's quietly been asking for. Second, increase their outdoor enrichment. More sniff-focus walks where your dog leads and explores rather than marching alongside you provide huge amounts of mental stimulation. Let them sniff. Let them wander. That biological need to connect with the earth, with scent, with the living world. Honoring that need reduces the urgency behind all sorts of compensatory behaviors, including compulsive grass eating. And finally, observe your dog with fresh eyes. Now that you understand what's really behind this behavior, every time you see your dog pause at that patch of grass, you have a chance to ask, what does my dog need right now? More fiber? More calm? More of my attention? More time to just be a dog? They can't tell you in words, but they are always communicating. You just have to learn the language. Your dog eating grass isn't a problem to fix. It's a message to read. Now you know what's really behind it. If this changed how you see your dog, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Canine Mind for more of the science behind the dog you love. They're always talking. Let's learn to listen.